it's not just chopping something off; it's also waving it about and that kind of thing.
Welcome back to Modern Horror Stories podcast with Jamie, Dave, and Alex. And today we're going to be talking about Terrifier 2, a movie made in 2022, directed by Damien Leone. So, shall we kick off with our scores? And who wants to give this a synopsis?
I'll do it without giving too much away. So, at the end of the last film, we saw Art the Clown shoot himself in the head, and he ended up in a coroner's office where he woke up with a hole still back there. And that's where we kick off. So I don't want to say too much, but we've got a new set of main characters. We've got a new bunch of people to follow, but really it's about Art the Clown. And I was wondering actually about clowning because I've never done any clowning, but I was wondering about your guys, whether you've got any experience of it, sort of how you felt Art was doing as a clown and not just as a horror villain. Because I sort of some of the stuff that he does, the way that he moves, but also the way that he engages sort of the audience, both the one that he's got in front of him and also us, the audience at home, I find absolutely fascinating. So yeah, I just wondered if any of you had thoughts about clowning.
I did I did one class about 20 years ago. I think Jamie's done a little bit more.
Yeah, I've done two classes about 12 years ago. So so double the classes. And yeah, one of the first things that we did was uh, anytime you enter the space, you take in the whole audience. And another thing that stands out is if you find something to do that you think that your clown character thinks is interesting or funny, do it multiple times. Really like repeat it. And I'm fairly certain. I'm trying to remember. I'm fairly certain Art does that sometimes. He'll like repeat an action and looking for a response from the audience, and the audience is sometimes in his head and sometimes is the person he's about to brutally murder or is in the process of brutally murdering. And yeah, I think a childlike curiosity in anything and everything. Everything can be interesting. The way a person moves their eyebrow can be interesting, or this object can be interesting. And I think art has this fascination with um, lots of different things.
And there are sort of more, there are almost more jokes in this one, I think, or
Yeah.
the sort of the way that Art will put out one particular weapon, the sort of style in which he'll do that is so perfectly clownish. And he is doing it like a joke. He'll pull a cleaver out in the way that a normal clown would pull some flowers out of their sleeve. Um, so I think I really appreciate the kind of dedication towards clowning. And you'll notice most of this review when I because I like this film a lot. Um, I will mainly be talking about Art the Clown because he is the thing that we all love about the film. Um, and um, and really, there's not much of a film without him in there. It would be a pretty standard horror film if there was just some slasher.
Well, actually, I mean that segues quite nicely into the difference I think between this and some of the other slasher films that are out there, because I think the brutality in Halloween or a Friday the 13th is almost a side product of the killing, whereas this just seems to be Art the Clown's raison d'etre. Every killing has to be a special event, um, with um, almost every single one is a signature kill. I might ask you later which you think. Actually, I'll ask you now. What do you think of the signature kills in this movie? Or if there was
Spoiler alert:
one,
the one. I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know exactly what I'm going to say. It was the sort of the castration, that one.
Interesting.
But why did you guys not think the same thing? Because for me, that was. I mean, it's not on the level as of in that first film. There is one clear signature kill, and it is utterly horrifying to watch. And in this one, I mean, it's still horrifying to watch. It's not as clearly a signature kill, I think, as in that first one, but it's still pretty horrible, and you have to deal with the aftermath of it as well. It's not just chopping something off. It's also waving it about and that kind of thing. So it's I mean, yeah, art's having a lot of fun, and I appreciated that.
Well, I thought the signature kill was the scalping and the girl on the bed, only purely because the mum comes home and the girl's still alive. And I think that was the one I was most through my fingers.
Okay,
With both of the Terrifiers, I've been through the fingers a fair bit, and that one I was more through the fingers than the penis kill.
right.
So I I like this film more than the first one. I weren't keen on the first one, and this one I like a fair bit more. It's still not my type, my cup of tea, so to speak. And I do wonder because I did like it more. I'm wondering if it's kind of if I'm getting the kind of heavy metal effect. And by that, what I mean is like I'm not a big fan of heavy metal, but if I hear a lot of it, after a while, I start to find the bits that I like. And because we've seen both these films, the first two, we've seen a couple of times. I have started to like this one a little bit more, but it is still pretty much hinges exact on Art the Clown, and there's a tiny bit more plot to this one, which I'm grateful for, but still not enough for me. How do you guys feel? I mean, you guys like the movie.
I mean, I completely understand. I think I probably have all the same problems with the film that you do. It just so happens that the things that I like about the film are enough to make up for those shortcomings. And also, a lot of the shortcomings I found quite entertaining in this film. Um, Whereas in the first film, some of the shortcomings were more to do with meandering and sort of um, where in this film, if there was a piece of dialogue I didn't like or I didn't feel it was particularly well delivered, I was enjoying that because it felt. I'm going to make a weird comparison here. The first Mamma Mia film. I watched the first Mamma Mia film, and loads of people had been really, really hyping it up for me. And I watched this. I watched it when I was about 20 for the first time, and it had been hyped up for years and years and years. And then I watched Mamma Mia, and I thought this is ridiculous. And um, and then I ended up watching the second film, and I thought this is absolutely brilliant because I felt they lent into everything. The first film, it felt like a mess, and it felt like it was sort of almost accidentally messy. Whereas the second film, I felt they lent into it. They decided, right, yes, we're going to do Mamma Mia, and we're going to turn it up to 100. Um, and it felt much, much more deliberate and much, much more sort of careful and planned. So I think, or maybe not careful and planned, but it felt like the wackiness of it was deliberate. And I felt that was very much true of the second Terrifier compared to the first. Was that the goofiness, the wackiness, it all added to the general atmosphere of this is a crazy film featuring a clown who kills people. Um, so yeah, probably not the comparison that anybody expected, but yes, the first two Terrifier films and the first two Mamma Mia films, I think a clear comparison can be made there. Yeah, that wasn't going to be an answer. That was there. I said what I said.
I love all the comparisons. Like we've got heavy metal, boxing, golf, Mamma Mia 2, Terrifier 2 is just like it's almost a parable for all the things in the world.
Yeah,
So if I was to treat this like a normal horror film, and it is quite it's quite niche for me. Like I say, it's not the sort of ones that I would normally go for. But if I was to treat it more like a film with a plot, there are lots of issues that I've got with the plot. There are some protagonists in the first film who were just victims, but in this film there are protagonists, it's kind of a plus. Well, I'm not even sure if it's a plus. I don't know. I don't know because I don't know where this film sits for me. But there is a protagonist, and lots of the plot lines, I feel like they might be making problems for themselves with the way all these the law of the universe comes together, and this is going to be one of my improvements tomorrow. Um, but yeah, yeah, lots of the plot seem to be very all over the place, and there's at least one or two dream sequences. I'm not. One's definitely a dream sequence. I'm not sure what the other one is.
I really didn't bother me at all that the law changes completely, or the fact that we don't have any idea who Art is. And if anything, I would like them to keep messing that up. I would like them to keep changing everything constantly. Um, because I like this franchise for its messiness. And I think if I were to start fixing it and start making the plots neater and the law starting to work and to create something cohesive, I think it just wouldn't be the same thing. Um, so on that basis, I really, really enjoyed the messiness of this film. Um and yes, yeah, if I were making it myself, I think this route of sort of changing what's going on all the time and all these backstories and different characters, I probably wouldn't do that. But seeing as the film's been made like that, I really sort of like it. It's an odd little quirk, and I think it sort of it marks it out as imperfect, and it will never ever be a perfect film. I think so long as they keep doing that, but I love it for those imperfections.
Interesting. I've got a different feeling about the law to both of you. Is that I feel like they have some sort of plan with the law that they've sort of mapped out for their entire franchise, or at least they have sort of they have a universe in mind, and they're sort of strangely drip feeding it to us, and but they're not in a way that we can comprehend or understand, and it's kind of, for me, I find it frustrating. I feel like they have some idea that they're sort of building they're building these films and these characters into this lore that they've built up, but they're just not sharing that. They're not sharing the lore with us, and it feels like neither of these films feel like standalone films. They feel like you almost have to watch another film to get what was going on in the first film. So I thought we were going to get that with this film, but instead it's just a bridging film to another film, and maybe that will be another bridging film. And for me, I don't know if that is the case. Maybe it is like Dave says, they've made problems for themselves, or like you said, Alex, that they're just throwing things in and seeing what happens. But I feel like um, I feel like they've mapped out a journey, and I'm kind of a little bit annoyed that I'm not allowed to just enjoy one of their films, like because yeah, they don't stand up on their own, I don't think.
So on that note, tomorrow we're going to be talking about how we would make Terrified 2 even better. There's been some hints dropped in this review already. So come and join us to find out how we would do that. I mean, personally, I fucking hate clowns.